Okay, hey everybody, what's up? Saturday, back at it. Apparently, I've been hearing for a while about this shooting that's going on. I'm trying to pull up all the information now. They came out with a short press conference, so we're going to cover that. We're going to go over that information. It says it 9 to 10 injured, suspect contained after shooting at Splash Pad in Rochester Hills. It says 10 people injured. The victims were of various ages, with the youngest identified as an 8-year-old. Okay. He got out of the car, took steps towards, I guess, the area, fired, reloaded as he ascended the steps. Just seemed like a random shooting, adding that it appeared to be a random active shooter with a 9mm Glock that was recovered at the scene. The suspect fired 28 shots. 28 shots. Let's check this out.
Times reloading, fired potentially 28 times, reloading multiple times. We have recovered the handgun and the magazines. We believe we have an individual who is a suspect contained nearby, so that if you're sheltering in place in the parks, I think it's okay for you to go home. We'd ask people to stay out of the area, though. If they're sheltering in place somewhere nearby, if they're going to leave the area, please, until we know more. At this point, as I said, we believe we have an individual contained in a home nearby. We have the house surrounded. We're bringing up some of our assets, our SWAT, some of our armored vehicles. We've been trying to talk to that person without response, but we again believe he's contained there. I'm going to be heading there shortly. We're in the process of getting a search warrant for that address, and then we're going to go from there.
Can you give us an idea age of victims? This is a splash pad. What are we dealing with?
It's all over the map. We don't have firm ages or victims yet, but
kids?
Yes, I know for sure that one of the individuals shot was 8, and it goes up to.
That 8-year-old?
We're still working on conditions.
Can you talk about what led up to this? I mean, was this a random person who just walked up, or were they enjoying the splash pad? I mean, what do you know about the shooter?
So far, again, this is all super preliminary. It appears like the individual pulled up, exited a vehicle, approached the splash pad, opened fire, reloaded, opened fire, reloaded, left.
So
it appears very random at this point. Appears random. No connectivity to the victims.
How far is the house that this person is in? How far is it?
Within a half mile.
Have you made contact with him as far as like talking to him on the phone? I mean, how do you know he's in there?
Well, we determined who we thought was potentially involved from some of the evidence on scene very quickly. Went immediately there. A vehicle that matched what had been described as a vehicle leaving the scene was there. And so we put up a quick perimeter, and deputies on scene apparently heard or saw the individual that they're trying to communicate with.
He is known to you guys?
He wasn't until, we did some quick investigation.
So
you didn't know
man?
Yes.
Is there anyone else in the home that he's in right now?
We are under the belief there is not. We don't know that for sure.
When do you expect to get conditions on? 9 to 10, right? That's
what we're hearing. We've got people fanning out. We've got multiple hospitals in the area that have people. So at least 4 that we're told so far have potential victims. So we've got victim advocates as well as detectives going to all of those sites, all of those hospitals. And we hope to have obviously more firm information for you in a bit.
Sheriff, do you know if when he got out of the car, that's how it went?
Exited
and
the
went
car.
Right up to the splash pad?
Went up to the steps, opened fire. It looks like he reloaded, maybe possibly as he was ascending the steps.
From how far away would you say? Hard to tell.
Probably 20 feet.
And so that's not someone having a fight with someone. That's someone just gets out. That's an active shooter. He just gets out and starts shooting people.
Yes. It appears to be a random active shooter.
That's terrifying.
What do you make of that? Here, right in the splash pad.
Obviously we don't know what's going on with this person or what is the motivation. That's going to be a work in progress.
Is he still armed, do you know? currently?
We don't know. We have recovered one weapon at the scene. Our investigators are under the belief that there's more weapons potentially in the home. We don't know if he has them or has access to them.
And does he know the person whose home he's in, or was it a random neighbor, or was it his home? Do you have any idea?
I honestly don't have all that information yet. We're just trying to pull it all together really quickly.
You've been sheriff for a long time. I mean, talk about your thoughts and feelings about this.
Well, it's a gut punch, obviously, for us here in Oakland County. We've gone through so many tragedies. You know, we're not even fully comprehending what happened at Oxford. And, you know, now we have another complete tragedy that we're dealing with.
And it's serious, obviously, the injuries. Are you getting any information that it would be a fatality? We just don't know.
We don't know yet. I know that one person came out of surgery, apparently did well. We don't. I just don't know at this point, because sometimes initial gunshot wounds look like they may be okay and stable, and it could turn quickly with some internal hemorrhaging. I just don't know. As soon as we know, we'll obviously.
Will you come back here to talk to us?
I'm going to go to the house and work with our SWAT and see if we can finish that part of this equation, and we'll keep you updated.
Mayor,
another question too for you. You know, was there anything about his appearance? I mean, was he dressed strangely, tactical gear or anything? Is there anything? Did he just look like us, walk out and start shooting?
I don't have anything on that other than, you know, an individual exited a car and opened fire.
Do you have anything on the driver, the person who brought him here, or did he drive himself?
It appears he drove himself.
You say green car, green Charger?
You know, I don't have the car. They have it at this location.
Can we ask the mayor and Mr. James a question? If you're here, what do you want people to know in your community?
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. I appreciate the immediate response of the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, our firefighters. You can only imagine what it's like to arrive on a scene like this, and certainly complete thoughts with the families right now. This is a great community, and it's heartbreaking to see this happen here.
There was a shelter in place. All of our phones went off. What do people need to know now? Is they're safe at this time?
As the sheriff just mentioned, you know, if you're in one of our parks that we're sheltering in place, it is okay to leave now, but we do want folks to stay away from this area.
But James, you just came from an event, and then here you are here. What do you make of all this?
Well, first and foremost, under no circumstance in this country, particularly in Rochester Hills, should fathers be spending Father's Day in a hospital. We're doing everything we possibly can to help the families in need. And first, I want to give a shout out to the first responders who were here, who mitigated further damage, and who are still in harm's way, bringing resolution to this crisis. I'm looking forward to continuing to work without politics, because this is an American epidemic that we need to fix. Gun violence needs to stop, and we are now most recently hit hardest by it.
Thank you very much. And Sheriff, is this the best place for us to be for more updates?
I'll have our PIO put something out, or we'll put it on Twitter when we're going to do a next briefing where that might be.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sorry? Okay. With a splash.
Sorry to be all on here.
It's like...
There, you talk to Lacey.
Yeah.
That would have been so much better. Stay where we were.
So this was at a splash pad / recreational center. They're saying, I mean, I don't know, the numbers are kind of changing. I said at least 9 people were shot, but I've seen the number 10 too. Young kids were there. One of the victims' age was 8 years old. And this place, it's in Brooklyn's Plaza, splash pad in Rochester Hills. They're saying the guy shot like 20-something times.
You've just been listening in to a press conference happening in Rochester Hills, where we've been following that breaking news. Multiple people shot. Sheriff Bouchard saying there at least 9 people were shot, possibly 10. He also let us know that an 8-year-old is among one of the victims. Shots rang out around 5:11 p.m. We do know investigators say it appears to be a random shooting. One of the most troubling parts of this, they have surrounded a suspect at a home nearby. Sheriff Bouchard saying it was within a half mile. Stay with 7 News Detroit on air and online at WXYZ.com for updates in this shooting investigation.
This has been a breaking news alert from 7 News Detroit. We now return to...
I wanted to show... Okay, there's a thing on Twitter that had a video clip. I just want to be careful of the video clip that I show.
I don't know.
It's just like one of those recreational areas, like you know, like a park or whatever, and it has that water stuff. So obviously very intentional.
A lot of people got shot. I don't know.
Okay, let's go. Let's go.
Park in Rochester Hills. Avoid area and seek shelter. Tune to local media for more information.
Okay. I want to see also if this live page. Oh, here's some more video. The outside of the area. Detroit. Trying to see if I can find any.
We're out at a park, spending time with the kids, spending time with their family members, their loved ones, and when this guy pulled up, he stepped out of the vehicle. Sean said a green Charger, and then started firing shots, and then reloaded and fired more shots, hitting 9 to 10 victims, and then took off. And what is extremely surprising about this is that it is
reloading.
At this point, the sheriff does not believe that the suspect had any connection to any of those victims. And then right after that, when officers started arriving to the scene, they were able to talk with eyewitnesses and start collecting evidence. And that evidence took them to a home at Hamlin and DeQuinder, the DeQuinder Estates. And that's where the suspect was contained inside of a mobile home. And we have those live pictures of that mobile home right now. So when I've covered these situations in the past, these SWAT situations, it's always very tense, and they always have the media a little bit away from the scene for our own protection, because they really don't know what can happen. And you saw where Hank was a short time ago, the fire truck and an ambulance, and that just shows you what type of scene this is and what they're preparing for. They have to have EMS on scene just in case the worst case scenario happens, if someone is injured or the suspect injures himself. And also with these negotiations, they try to get the suspect to come out and with their hands raised and take the person into custody. And that is how they want to end these situations. So we haven't been given an update on the suspect, how those negotiations are going, if they're in fact talking with the suspect at this point, if anyone else is inside the home. Sometimes it's extremely challenging to make contact with the suspect to begin the negotiations, and so we're waiting for information on that. One thing that Sheriff Bouchard said, among many things, is that I just wanted, a reporter asked, getting his personal thoughts about what is going on. Obviously, he's been in law enforcement for some time, but he's also a person, a citizen of the community. And he said that we have not fully comprehended what happened in Oxford. Now we're dealing with another tragedy. So that just gives you some insight of what he's thinking, just as a person, as well as a law enforcement officer. The Rochester Hills mayor was there as well at that press conference. His name, Brian Barnett. He said what happened is heartbreaking. And John Lay is at the splash pad, and we're working to gather details from him, more details. He was live with us earlier, and he's gathering some more details now, just to get an idea of people who were there at the time, what they were experiencing. And you have to know that it's something that they will never forget. Heartbreaking when you think about what you expect when you go to a park. You expect to have some fun, make some memories, and I keep mentioning that it is Father's Day weekend, and then people are in a celebratory mood, and then something like this happens, and so just simply heartbreaking. But you're looking at our live pictures from the mobile home park where this is all unfolding. That is where we are told that the suspect is, at DeQuinder Estates mobile home park. And I'm going to bring in Kimberly Gill right now to give us the latest on this.
Yeah, I've just been watching here and listening to the coverage. You're right, it's absolutely heartbreaking. Father's Day weekend. It looks like it was a beautiful park, the Brooklands Plaza splash pad, where this happened about 5:30. As you've been telling folks at home, Will, as many as 10 people were shot. What you're looking at right now is the second scene. The first scene where this happened was a splash pad in Rochester Hills. About 5 o'clock, a random gunman got out of a car. We're being told it was a green Dodge Charger, unloaded 28 shots, leaving 3 magazines at the scene, and it sounds like that suspect fled. We're assuming in the car, maybe on foot. I don't know. I heard you say you did a map search to see the distance between these
2.7 miles.
So whatever it is, we believe that they maybe have him contained, him or her, we don't know, contained at this mobile home community in Shelby Township. I heard you talking, Will, about the posture of the officers. It doesn't, you've covered these kinds of things for years. It doesn't seem like there's a sense of urgency, so hopefully that is...
Well, now we're seeing some officers running, and so I'm not sure what is going on right now. It looked like one of the officers ran to their vehicle, but in terms of what's happening directly in front of the home, we're not seeing any
real urgency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, real urgency. But we did,
which home is it? Is it this one here?
Our Hank Winchester is on the scene there, not too far from the entrance of this mobile home community, which you said it was the DeQuinder Estates mobile home community. It's on Shirewood Drive there in Shelby Township, and he did get word from some officers that it was okay to move his location to maybe a better vantage point. So maybe that is also good news. We are seeing a little bit of movement.
And then we saw, and in this live shot earlier, there was an ambulance, and we thought initially that it was a driveway to a home, and then once our chopper went up, and we got live pictures from our chopper, that we saw that this is actually a mobile home park community, and we saw an ambulance go down into the development, but the ambulance is not near the home, so we're unsure what's going on with that. But a lot of times they just want to be there just in case the worst case scenario happens.
Sure. Well, we also heard Hank, he was talking to not necessarily an eyewitness person there near the scene, but he was walking around in the area and was kind of familiar with this mobile home community, the DeQuinder Estates mobile home community, and mentioned that this area is somewhat of a one-way in, one-way out kind of community, but that it's not any gating around it that somebody could leave as they wanted to, because there are a lot of ways out, but not necessarily by car. As we continue to take a look here.
And you have to think too, just about this happened at 5:30, a nice day, and a lot of people are at a park, and the sheriff was telling us that there's no motive at this point. This appears to be a random shooting. So getting back to this scene where we're getting these live pictures now, you have to really wonder the mental state of the male suspect, if they're willing to open fire at a park.
Yeah. And we've seen these kinds of things happen. That mental health, is such a problem.
Twitter people are so
in our world today that your mind automatically goes.
I don't know. I'm not exactly sure which is the home. I was trying to find it out. For the new people that just joined, I've heard of numbers like 9 or 10 people. I'm seeing 8. Those numbers fluctuate. I haven't heard of deceased. I don't know if anybody shot dead. I read somewhere some in critical condition. The guy just drives up to a recreational splash center, those things with water or whatever, pulls out a Glock and just starts popping. 28 shots. I guess he, reloaded.
And I think I did hear Sean Lay say that he heard from an eyewitness that actually we're getting information that Hank might have an update for us. Let's go to Hank Rochester. He is live near this second scene, this mobile home community. Hank, can you hear me?
I can, yes. We've just moved our way down the road a little bit near the intersection here of DeQuinder and Willowwood. And from this vantage point, you can kind of see the entrance here to this mobile home community. There you can see that ambulance that we saw pulling into this area just a short time ago. It clearly did not make its way to the home to the mobile home that may be the focus of this investigation. It's just kind of here on standby. That is not uncommon in these situations. We often see at least 1 or 2 EMS rigs during a standoff situation. They remain on standby. They're obviously working to make sure that the people that live in this area are safe, but they have that rig on standby just in case something happens and if they need to transport somebody. From this area, you can obviously see the very large police presence. It is mainly at this location, Oakley County Sheriff's Department controlling the scene here, and from what you can see here along DeQuinder, it is not a situation where they are rushing. It is a situation where they are kind of in standby mode and taking this all in. Did any of you see any of this when this kind of unfolded, or no? Okay, so we've got a lot of neighbors and people that live in this area here, just off of Willowwood. Is this side of the road technically Rochester Hills, or is this Shelby? Got it. So on the east side of the roadway, where you see the mobile home community, that would be Shelby Township, and then on this side of the roadway, Willowwood Drive, making its way west off of DeQuinder, that would be Rochester Hills. So kind of this is the dividing line here between these two communities. But you can see that this is one of the main entrances. But we did hear from a few neighbors who said that there were a few entry and exit points from this mobile home community. They said it was very large. I could see from the chopper shot that there is also what looks to be a pond in this area. Investigators kind of, not only working to focus their attention on that one particular mobile home, but also the entrance and exit points that are throughout this area, to making sure that they have kind of all their eyes on this situation, making sure they have it covered and locked down. I will tell you, there's a great sense of, it sounds strange, but it's kind of calm here at Willowwood and DeQuinder. Police were over here. They let the residents know, that they needed them to kind of stay back, that they were working an active police investigation. I talked to one of the neighbors. They said that police, which you would not expect, did not provide a lot of details, just telling them that they were working an active situation.
I wonder if that person inside is watching the news and the live feeds and stuff, watching to see the reaction and what they've done. Maybe this is a picture of the splash pad area, like what the park looks like. There's 8+ people shot, 4 critical condition, adults and children were shot, taken to area hospitals. And that's just make it bigger. That's the park.
Have a better idea than I do, but obviously they've worked to make sure that a good stretch of DeQuinder here is closed on the Shelby Township Rochester Hills border as they work to figure out exactly what is happening. But this from what we can gather and what we've been told from police is really about the art of negotiation, the art of getting more information, not only from those who might live in this mobile home community, but obviously in regards to the person that they believe may have a connection to that incident not far away at that Rochester Hills splash pad. So that is what we see right here at this scene. We have an unmarked vehicle now making its way up. Obviously got police clearance from the south side of this entrance to make its way in here.
That might be.
I can't tell if that's Bouchard. Typically he's unmarked, but I don't think that that's his vehicle. If it is, we'll work to get some more information from them. But again, it's one of those very strange situations where you obviously see a very large active police presence, but there is this sense of calm on the other side of the roadway as neighbors who, as you would expect, are looking on, trying to figure out exactly. No, that's not the sheriff. Exactly, it is. That's Sheriff Bouchard right there, making his way out of the vehicle. Shaking hands with law enforcement out there right now. Let's try to see if we can get his attention. We want him obviously to be able to get an update on what's going on, but if he makes his way back over here, we'll see whether the sheriff is available at this location to kind of get us updated and get us some more information. I'm going to send it back to you guys right now. Any questions? Anything that I can try to answer for you? I mean, I know it's a very, it's an unusual situation as we're all trying to kind of gather what's going on here. But the sheriff making his way out here to the scene obviously leads us to believe that the focus of the investigation has made its way from whatever jurisdiction, whatever vantage point that they were at before to this location. The sheriff being here is a clear indication that the focus of the investigation is now at this location at DeQuinder and Willowwood here right on the border of Shelby Township and Rochester Hills.
Hank, this is Kimberly. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. I can, yes.
Yeah, before we let you go, we know you've covered these kinds of things for years, and we talk a lot about the posture of the officers here. What is this? We don't want to speculate, but what does your gut tell you what's going on here? Would perhaps they be waiting for maybe the next step, like if the alleged shooter has done something to himself? Would they be waiting for the medical examiner? Why is it that their posture is so very calm in this situation?
Well, and I'll tell you, Kimberly, just as you were asking me that, I got an alert on my cell phone, and maybe you just got one too, but it was the public safety alert, Oakland County Sheriff's Department, saying the shelter in place has been lifted. You guys all get that on your phones too? Okay, everybody here just got that also. It said continue to avoid the area near Brooklyn splash pad. For more information, tune into local media, Local 4. So obviously, whatever they feel like was happening at this location, it sounds like police believe that they have this situation at least under control. The shelter in place has now been lifted. That's giving people here in this area a big sigh of relief. You could just see it as they were all getting that cell phone alert, probably as you got it also, Kimberly, too, as you were asking that question. But to get back to your original question, I think what this kind of leads us to believe, especially with the sheriff getting here a short time ago, is that the focus of this case has now made its way here to this mobile home community. We wouldn't see Sheriff Bouchard here unless the focus had now switched. And seeing him here obviously leads us to believe that this is where the focus of things are moving forward. Now, getting that alert, that is a big sigh of relief for the people that live here, for the people in this community, because that leads us to believe that police now have this situation, at least at this intersection, under control. What that means exactly, we just don't know. As you know, we want to work to make sure that we get that information confirmed from police. It is not it is not causing police to. I just want to get a visual on this. They are keeping the roadways closed, both to the south and down here to Hamlin. Everything.
What? And let me see. I lost the message. I'm seeing two totally different descriptions. One person said that the lime green Charger was not the vehicle, but a witness. Interesting.
This information that police do believe that they have a handle on this situation, that the shelter in place has been lifted. That leads us to believe that things, at least from a police perspective, are moving in the right direction right now.
Yeah, very. to hear that shelter in place has been lifted for the area. Hank, we're going to let you go and try to get some more information, try to get with Sheriff Bouchard, and we are just going to recap for folks that maybe have just been tuning in. And actually, Will, you just got a statement, or the governor just tweeted out a statement. What is she saying?
She says, quote, "I'm heartbroken to learn about the shooting in Rochester Hills. We are monitoring the situation as updates continue to come in and are in touch with local officials." And several other politicians have been tweeting out statements. I know Alyssa Slotkin tweeted out one earlier, and she works in that area, that represents that area. So
we heard from John Jordan too, or John James, excuse me, John James earlier as well. Yeah, we do want to reiterate that the shelter in place has been lifted for the area, but as Hank mentioned, a good stretch of DeQuinder Road is still closed right in the area of the Shelby Township, Rochester Hills, where those two communities meet there. But there is good news that it feels like the authorities do have a handle, we hope, on this situation, as we just saw Sheriff Bouchard come there to this scene. If you're just tuning in, we will recap very quickly. Again, as many as 10 people were shot at a splash pad in Rochester Hills. This happened about 5:30 during the 5 o'clock hour. What they're calling a random gunman got out of a car, unloaded 28 shots, leaving 3 magazines at the scene. And we know that we don't know the extent of the injuries, but we do know at least one 8-year-old was hurt in this situation. And we are going to continue to monitor this. We've got Sean Lay also at the scene of the splash pad. You've been hearing from Hank Winchester. He is here in Shelby Township. We are going to take a break, gather ourselves, also try to get some more information here from the station, and keep it tuned here to Local 4 Plus. When we get more, we'll bring it to you.
With Google Workspace, apps like Docs, Drive, Gmail, and Meet are connected and in one place, so your whole team can make updates and stay up to date in real time. That's working together with Google Workspace.
Sorry.
Go for it, go for it.
So the 1 minute I step away. I had another live feed. Here we go.
Sheltering in parks or nearby,
Sorry,
you
guys.
can go home.
I hope you forgive
So
me.
if you're watching this on your phone
Lord.
and you are sheltering nearby, you can go home. But they are still asking people to stay away from the area of Auburn Road east of John R. We know that SWAT is on scene, armored vehicles as well.
Well, Annalie, supposedly this guy's contained in some type of shelter, or I don't know where they have him. Not a shelter, but I guess in his home. So, I mean, they know where he's at. I don't know if they're trying to do negotiations. You know, I've seen sometimes people in these situations that, you know, or a lot of times they'll off themselves or they'll burn the place down.
Action to the victims based on what we know so far. So right now, just a very fluid situation. Many of these victims are in the hospital currently. At least 4 have potential victims related to this awful tragedy, this awful shooting that happened in Rochester Hills. It's possible they could be at even more hospitals, but we know at least 4 are treating these victims, doing the good work of potentially saving lives here. We also know Dave Spencer is out right on the border between Rochester and Shelby Township, near Wildwood and DeQuinder, where we believe that suspect is, quote, contained. Contained is how the Oakland County Sheriff described it. I want to go back out to Camille Amiri, who is there on scene monitoring. Anything new you could tell us right now? We do see some movement there, Camille.
Well, I'm a little bit far away, but you're right. We can see. I think if Coulter, can you pan over to the people over at the command center? You know, I'm not quite sure what they're doing, but again, they're going to be here for the long haul, so I'm not sure logistically what they're setting up. It's interesting. I wanted to point out too, just while you were talking, we actually had a woman drive by and she did not know what had happened. She was like, what's going on? We couldn't respond because our camera was hot and we were obviously sending back live pictures at the time, but she didn't know about this. So obviously this is something that people are still still learning about at this hour. And if you are just joining us, if you are just finding out about this, we can tell you that this happened around 5:11 at East Auburn Road and Culbertson Avenue, a splash pad at Spencer Park, right across the street from an ice cream place. A man got out of his car. He pulled up. He got out of his car. He opened fire, reloaded, possibly shooting up to 28 times. We know that there are 9 to 10 victims, some of them children, some of them in critical condition. We don't know the ages of the people in critical condition, and we know that they were taken to up to 4 different area hospitals. We know that the suspect has been contained, that police have the area surrounded, and they have made contact with him. But right now, he is not in police custody. He has not been arrested. Again, we're going on now, going on 9 o'clock. So this happened a little over 4 hours ago. The scene has been secured since very quickly. Police officers, sheriff's deputies on the scene within minutes, using new technology that they were trying out, 911 technology, where they were able to get an officer who was actually here in the area. He found out right away and was here. That obviously helped. And we know that the victims, like I said, rushed to area hospitals. And then, of course, so many witnesses who saw this, who heard this, who saw the man get out of the car and start shooting just randomly. The sheriff saying in a briefing earlier tonight that this appears to be a random shooter, that he appears to not have any connection with the victims or the other people at the splash pad, and that he doesn't have any connection to the splash pad. So that is where we are right now. Hillary, I know that Dave is probably going to be weighing in too, because I know he's at a situation where there's a lot more going on where he is. As per now, right now, they're just basically still processing the scene, which again will probably take hours to do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. He was at near Wildwood and DeQuinder, right there on the Rochester and Shelby Township side. We understand that the most active part of this on the Shelby Township side. Dave, we believe we have you, and you are seeing...
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you are seeing right now what on the ground?
Well, I'm seeing what you're seeing as well. I think you're getting a shot from our camera is that a new SWAT unit just pulled up on the scene. They came in with their lights on, then they turned them off as soon as they turned into the DeQuinder Estates, right here at the border of Rochester and Shelby Township. This is where obviously most of their efforts are being centered right now. We know that that's a mobile home estate that's pretty SWAT vehicle did, and then it made a right, and then it's theoretically going to where this person is, under observation to some degree. We also know that the shelter in place was just lifted moments ago. At the same time that they lifted the shelter in place, that is when the Oakland County Sheriff arrived in his vehicle, got out of his car, and walked into the scene, walked into the DeQuinder Estates itself.
Yep, sniper rifle.
Of course, Daddy knows everything.
They're gonna cap this dude.
Daddy knows all the weaponry.
It's not gonna come out. Yeah, they're gonna cap.
Oh, it's muted. I'm sorry. Oh my god. I don't know if you heard me. The mods, there's one mod, but there's like 5,000 people, so it's not gonna be this. You know, there's gonna be a lot of people in the chat. If you have to, you can block them. Oh my god. It's wild, man. You can't do nothing these days. You can't go anywhere. You know, grocery store, park, movie, whatever. Everything's getting shot up. Funerals getting shot up too. Ain't nothing. People just on edge, and I don't know, mental health or whatever thing you want to add to the list, just to pull up to a random splash pad and just start popping off. Insane.
Where that shooting took place, what kind of brought deputies here, I don't know. I don't know if that was relayed during the news conference. I wasn't privy to that, but somehow they were able to track the alleged suspect to this location, and this is where we are right now.
Yeah, Dave, we don't know either. That isn't something that Sheriff Mike Bouchard relayed to us during that press conference, but he did say that they are trying to obtain a search warrant. We don't know if he's been able to do that yet. I would assume, since the fact that he was talking around 7:40 this evening, they may have gotten their hands on that warrant
I do have
and
a
be able
Discord.
to search for additional evidence to be able to possibly get this person, of course, to bring this to a safe resolution. That is obviously what they're trying to do. I know that you just got there, so you're not able to see or haven't had a chance to interact with anyone. I wonder if you've had a chance to talk with a witness, maybe someone who first saw law enforcement arrive there on scene yet?
Yeah, I've been able to speak with some of the people that have just kind of been hanging on the perimeter here. One of them was telling me that they actually have a daughter that lives inside one of these units, and she was, not home at the time, that daughter, but that a neighbor was told that they needed to evacuate from where they were at that point. This was early on when they were just arriving on scene, and then, we've seen in that time people kind of being able to leave freely from the DeQuinder Estates mobile home park, but nobody really allowed to enter unless you're law enforcement. Obviously, they have a perimeter that's set up about half a mile in either direction, not allowing anyone to go in, including right here at Wildwood and DeQuinder. That's basically what they got. All these people that are kind of looking on only got notice to the fact that anything was going on when they saw the dozens of law enforcement vehicles roll up and set this perimeter. Then they kind of started to filter out and see what exactly is going on. Most of them had heard about the shooting that took place just a mile down the road. Some of them were even telling me that they had plans to go there right before this. They were going to take, I guess it's a popular place to bring a dog, so they were going to bring their dog down there, spend the day at the park. Thankfully, for whatever reason, they decided not to. Just living a mile away. And now we're watching a few other people kind of make their way out of the scene. Law enforcement just kind of walking back to their vehicles as another car, seemingly somebody that was, lives here in DeQuinder Estate, is again allowed to leave. That's basically what we've been able to gather in terms of information. Just here on the perimeter. Hillary.
And just to be clear, Dave, you haven't seen any emergency vehicles like an EMS or anything rush out of there. Not that that would necessarily tell us anything, but it can sometimes provide information. Have you witnessed anything like that?
No, I have not. Like you said, the only thing I've seen here is this one ambulance. They arrived after I did, so I got here right around, about an hour ago, about 8 o'clock, and they arrived here shortly after that, along with that fire truck, and then we watched two more SWAT vehicles arrive since that time. There was one on hand already. Again, the mannerisms that I've observed since I've been here, even from that hour ago period, has been, law enforcement walking with their rifles, not in a defensive position, but just kind of loosely hanging at their side. They're not triggered or pointed at anyone else at this point. That's not to say that where they are closer inside that park, that's not happening right now. It could possibly be, but here on the perimeter at least, that's not the case. So one would assume, given the all clear that was given, we all got alerts on our phone, or at least I did, and I'm sure most of our people watching right now did, saying that there is no longer a threat. You would assume that this is just kind of they're waiting to kind of get their ducks in a row, and then hopefully the sheriff will come back out and figure out exactly, or tell us exactly what happened. We all got alerts on our phone, or at least
I mean, they said he's locked up in
every site.
I was trying to get another website. They said he's locked up in there unless he hurt himself or he gives up. Let me see if there's any other updates on Twitter. I can't even find anything on Twitter. All these crazy Karen Reed people up my ass. I'm trying to search actual news and people. This is so many people. It's yes, replying. Oh my god. All right. Let's see.
And maybe Timothy will follow with me. You'll see kind of the edge of the perimeter. Now this stretches down about a half a mile, and this is where we see like the one example of one of the armored vehicles, and then a number of deputy vehicles setting all the way down. It stretches just beyond Wildwood here, all the way to Hamlin Road. That is the essentially the perimeter, and then this is the edge of DeQuinder Estates right across the street from me. This is kind of where they're focusing most of their efforts. And beyond that, that's the street that comes in, that's the street that goes out. That's the one way in, one way out. Beyond that, there's dozens of mobile home units in there. And in speaking with people who live close by, they also mentioned that, you know, it backs up to some trails, it backs up to some woods. So there's plenty of places that if a person was to want to hide out from anyone, they'd have plenty of opportunity to do so. Now, it stands to reason, though, in this case, that at least the person that they're looking for, they have a good idea of where that person is. I would be surprised if they didn't, given the fact that the sheriff came out here, came to the scene himself, got out of his vehicle, walked into the DeQuinder Estates, and kind of made his way in a purposeful direction to try to obtain some information. What that is, we're still waiting to find out, but hopefully that won't be much longer now.
I had one more question for you. Look, you have covered a number of active scenes just like this throughout your career. Do you notice anything different compared to other ones? And I know it's always a case-by-case basis, but can you kind of let people at home kind of get some insight on how these scenes work and what we're seeing, and whether it is elevated, whether it is much like several of the scenes that we have covered in the past?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I have. In the suburbs, it's a little more rare to see this scene, to be honest with you. But yes, I have covered a number of these, but there is a good-sized police presence. And that's here on the perimeter. I have no idea what's going on beyond this perimeter. So one would stand to reason, given the fact that we saw a large armored vehicle, two of them in fact, drive down in there and then kind of disappear out of view behind these large trees, that there is a scene within a scene, so to speak, right? This is the perimeter. This is where they feel that people are safe to kind of congregate, whether that be just bystanders or who else. They have no problem. I haven't gotten any blowback from any of the deputies. Usually, sometimes they reset the perimeter. They push you back. That has not happened since we've been here. There's a number of people kind of along the side with me, just kind of hanging out, watching to see what happens. So yes, this is a large-scale police presence here. Obviously, given the gravity of what transpired around 5 o'clock today, you can understand exactly why that's the case. That's only a mile away, so obviously something brought them to this location. They worked on that intel. They have sent the perimeter and are now reassessing what they need to do from here. Hopefully that gives you a sense of the gravity of the situation here.
Yeah. Obviously, this is a developing situation that is involving a cross-jurisdictional effort, we would imagine. We talked about the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. We can see a vehicle from there. There are a lot of unmarked vehicles. Any update on additional law enforcement agencies that may be aiding the workers who are there, the investigators there now, Dave?
Yeah, to be honest with you, the majority of them are definitely Oakland County Sheriff deputy. We know that there's a lot of them, right? And I'm sure that once this call came out, it was all hands on deck. If you were anywhere near the scene, you were asked to come help. And then, of course, once they kind of located where the alleged suspect is, then all that effort just moved a mile down the road to this scene here. So that is what we're seeing again from the absolute edge of the scene is mostly Oakland County Sheriff deputies. There are a number, as you mentioned, of unmarked vehicles that are kind of.
Moskowitz, thank you for the 16 months. Appreciate that. Says thank you, Mel. Timothy, thank you for the 5-month membership. Zuma Mama, thank you for the new membership. And Marilyn, thank you for the 28 months. Says thank you for covering this, Mel. I'm still looking for
a sense of urgency,
updates.
but it's not kind of any chaotic, desperate acts of people
like
rushing
relaxed
into the scene. They're moving very methodically through the scene. They know exactly, in other words, where they're going, it seems. And once they get there, it kind of disappears beyond our view, so we can't see what's happening beyond that.
Yeah, I know it's really difficult because obviously they're going to keep you beyond a certain point. They have established a clear perimeter, and all of us have worked these kinds of scenes before where we see a significant police presence. I see another vehicle that appears to be coming out. You might have a better
The SWAT vehicle was leaving. That was the one. That was the one that when he first came to me live, that was the one that was accompanying a larger one. Yeah, you're right. That's pulling out. That's going north towards Hamlin right now, away from the scene. I couldn't tell how many people were in it. I couldn't tell how many people were in it the first time. Yeah, but now they're throwing on their lights and sirens just to get beyond the perimeter. It doesn't seem like they're picking up any speed. Like I don't know if they're necessarily rushing to another scene per se.
2 hearts to you.
They
Chat and the best mod squad.
Yeah, that's the latest from here.
Hey, Dave, I want to ask you this. Have you heard any voices over the speakers? I know typically when you have a SWAT situation and a barricade situation, you may hear an officer announce their presence. Have you heard any indication of that while you've been there?
No, I haven't. Not since I've been here for the past hour. Again, and speaking with one person who says that their daughter lives in this DeQuinder Estates mobile home park, but was not home at the time. She says that her neighbor was asked to leave, that it was, in a close proximity to wherever she lives, that they were told to leave the home. Again, this was probably that happened, I would say, 7 o'clock or even sooner. So it's been a couple hours now since even that has transpired. So there's been no communication audibly that I could hear between law enforcement and the suspect. No. As I say that now, I hear something. I hear something now. I can't make out quite what it's being said. But there is some sort of message being delivered over some sort of PA system from law enforcement. I couldn't make it out, so it's telling me that the scene is a little bit out of my reach in terms of how far away it is from our road. But there was something said. I couldn't make it out.
Yeah, Dave, if you could...
I'm hearing from a...
Go ahead.
I'm hearing from a bystander that had probably a better earshot because I got something in my ear, like listening. That they were instructing him to come out. So it is possible that it's just from somebody who was just standing next to me that could make it out a little better than I could. So I can't confirm that that's what was being said, but that's what it sounded to him, that they were instructing the person to come out.
Now
we'll kind of stick with this and see what transpires here.
Yeah, and as Brandon was talking to you about, and as we've mentioned multiple times, we've all been on these kinds of scenes. How does this compare to previous scenes? The Department of Justice, the feds, FEMA, agencies that basically are collaborative efforts between multiple law enforcement agencies, they have protocols for these kinds of situations where they have a suspect inside of a home. Again, I know you're kind of further away, but how does this kind of compare to other scenes in which clearly police are managing someone inside of a home, unknown people inside, unknown weapons inside?
Correct, yeah, and given the fact, like, normally on these scenes you have a better sense, or at least I typically would, or maybe you would as well, of where exactly they're targeting their efforts, how far away from the perimeter they are. Unfortunately, given the fact that there's tall trees surrounding this, it's a huge kind of mobile home park. I can't really get a sense, even from hearing the person over the loudspeaker, of where it is. I know that we did have Skyfox over earlier. Maybe they have some sort of better vantage point that they could provide our viewers as to where, in terms of they're concentrating their efforts compared to where I am. But yeah, that's kind of unique in that I don't know where the central part of the scene is. So all of this perimeter action I'm seeing it's very static right now. There's not a lot of movement happening. Normally, as you get closer to kind of the center of it, that's where things kind of...
All right, still waiting. I wonder if there's anybody on TikTok out there in person. I don't know. Or Citizen, maybe Citizen. Marilyn, thank you again for the 28 months. SW4x4, thank you for the 15 months. It's Happy Father's Day. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. AJ Vintage, 15 months. Amazing. Happy Dad's Weekend, Mel. Thank you. Also, Charmed Girl, thank you for the 14 months. Says Happy Father's Day. And followers in the chat. Thank you.
Every which way as well. So obviously when they arrived, they were in a hurry to kind of secure this scene, get it as locked down as they could, and then concentrate their efforts on finding this person and making sure he doesn't go from where they found him.
Dave, hey, look, we appreciate the work that you've been doing. We're going to give you a chance to regroup. We do want to get to a soundbite from Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard on this situation.
Went up to the steps, opened fire It looks like he reloaded, maybe possibly as he was ascending the steps. We have recovered a 9mm Glock semi-automatic handgun and 3 empty magazines. So preliminarily, it looks like the suspect fired potentially 28 times, reloading multiple times. We have recovered the handgun and the magazines.
So we also want to get to this full screen from a statement from Corewell Health, who has been helping out with this tragic situation. Quote, "Our hearts are with those who were impacted by the shooting that occurred in Rochester Hills. We can confirm that our team is caring for some of those victims, but we are not releasing any additional information." So that is from Corewell Health on this situation in Rochester Hills. Of course, 9 people at least that we know of that have been shot at a splash pad. Very tragic situation. As you know, that splash pads are very popular this time of year. But look, I appreciate the work that you and Dave and Camille and our photographers have been doing to keep us up to speed for the past 4 hours.
Yeah, and we certainly appreciate also the first responders who have likely seen absolute horror. These people, some as young as 8 years old, is what the Oakland County Sheriff said, having to flee for their lives. It's also possible that there could be additional victims. We know at least 9, but possibly 10. And
young victims as well.
Young victims, one as young as 8 years old, according to the Oakland County Sheriff. Now, we want to just give you a recap if you're just now joining us. Apparently, the call came in just around 5:11. Now, the sergeants were actually listening to a new technology. They heard the call before it was actually dispatched. Investigators were there on the scene within 2 minutes. At this point, as we've said, 9, maybe 10 victims have been injured. We know that many of them are suffering from gunshot wounds. The sheriff was very clear that there are various kinds of injuries here, so we're still waiting on that information. Because they're at 4 separate hospitals at least, it can take some time to know how many victims you even have and what kind of injuries we're talking about.
You could also account for the possibility of some of those victims that weren't necessarily tended by those first responders, just driving themselves to the hospital. So that could add to that number as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as you said, this is a very evolving situation, and it has been for the last 4 hours. Apparently what had happened, according to authorities, was the suspect got out of the car.
Really?
The suspect is a man, got out of the car, started shooting. And from what we have been told, that the suspect had no relation with any of those victims that were out there at the splash pad. Suspect is contained in a home, and that's where you saw Dave Spencer. And they're not sure if anybody else is with him inside that home. And right as we were transitioning from Dave, he did say that he did hear someone, possibly a SWAT person, over the loudspeaker. So things could elevate and ramp up in the next few minutes.
It was a 9mm Glock, by the way, that was recovered at the scene. And they're saying that the suspect shot, I guess, 28 shots. So, you know, he had reloaded, fired and reloaded. Jeez.
We'd have no idea how many weapons. During the press conference, the sheriff said he wasn't sure if there was anyone else inside of the home. All of these things they may have better information on, but obviously they're working this active situation. We also can tell our viewers that investigators did recover a 9mm Glock semi-automatic handgun. The suspect fired potentially 28 times. 28 times.
It's unbelievable.
According to the sheriff, reloading multiple times. They also recovered magazines. We saw from Skyfox a number of these evidence markers. Those are those yellow markers in which they might have been collecting shell casings, etc. And all of that evidence is going to be so important for the prosecutor to put together a solid case. Of course, with anyone who's contained in a home, investigators, law enforcement, they want that person to come out safely. But afterwards, they have to be held accountable for this kind of tragedy, for this kind of absolutely heinous.
Let's see if they're held accountable, because I don't know. You know, so many times these people just go off themselves. There's a lady here that on Twitter made a post. Looks like a reporter. Let me see, maybe a reporter. Yeah, CBS News Digital.
Hey everybody, I want to give you a breaking news update regarding a mass shooting here in Rochester Hills, Michigan. It appears a gunman opened fire at a child's splash pad. This is the scene. It's at the Brooklands Plaza splash pad on East Auburn Road in Rochester Hills. And we know at this point 9 to 10 people have been shot. At least one child, an 8-year-old, is in critical condition. I'm going to run you through all the details I just got from Sheriff. Now, this happened just after 5 p.m. on Saturday. And at this point that I'm filming this, it's 8 o'clock. The scene's still active, but I'm going to give you the most up-to-date information that I have. So we know that 9, maybe 10.
Thank you, Dr. Edward Moskowitz. Julie, thank you so much for the 20.
10 people are gunshot victims. One of the people that were shot was a child who was 8 years old, and they're in critical condition. At the scene of the splash pad, they found a handgun and 3 empty magazines, gun magazines. So they say that means the suspect fired as many as 28 times. They say what they think happened is the suspect drove up to the splash pad. On the other side of that white car are stairs that lead to the splash pad that's there at that blue building. They believe that the suspect drove up, got out of their car, walked towards those steps and opened fire, again, as many as 28 times. Right now at 8 o'clock, they tell us that the suspect has been contained to a home nearby. They found the suspect by following a car that was seen leaving the scene. They followed that car to a home where the suspect is inside but is not coming out, and he's currently surrounded. They don't know if the suspect is still armed at this point, and they say they do believe that he is in that home alone. They say they believe that this shooting was random, but they're going to continue to investigate. As far as the suspect, all we know is that it was a man. Again, this is still a developing situation here in Rochester Hills, Michigan. We'll, of course, keep you posted, but at this point we know 9 or 10 people, gunshot victims, and at least one child is in critical condition.
Okay. People, witness.
About your day, what brought you over to this general area?
So yeah, I was just out and about, and I'm seeing all these cop cars, all these SWAT cars, and I'm seeing all the airplanes in the air, and it's a crazy scene out here. And so we pull over, and we just want to see what's going on, and we want to see the guy. We want to see him caught. You know, we want to see him caught.
When you first were brought over here, did you have any idea what was going on just a mile down the road over at the splash pad?
Yes. So we got the alert on our phone, and we wanted to pull over, make sure we were safe, and we saw the cops, and we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what roads were blocked off. So we just wanted to pull over and make sure we were safe.
And then you were able to kind of be one of the first here where this all took place, correct?
Yes.
And so in the time that you've been here, has the scene kind of grown?
It's grown. It's grown. It's gotten more wild. More people have pulled up. There's like 50 cars down the line. There's more people gathering. It's just gotten more crazy
you guys
over time.
And then obviously SWAT teams have been arriving. We saw an ambulance and a fire truck arrive just a couple hours ago. I know that you're here with me on the perimeter. Do you have any idea where it is inside there at all?
I think it's in the back on the left-hand corner. I can't be too certain, but I think they have him contained. I don't know if he's barricaded in the trailer. I'm not sure.
Right. And Logan, you were the one that informing our viewers just moments ago that we both heard something over the loudspeaker. You thought it was somebody saying what?
That they were telling them to come out. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And that was.
They have ambulances. I don't know if shots were fired.
You didn't hear any? Did you hear any?
I did not hear any. Okay. Everything's loud around here. It's a wild scene tonight.
You were telling me earlier today that you had plans even to go visit this exact spot.
I was. Luckily, God told me to just go to the pool. Just go to the pool, and you don't need to go to no splash pad and get shot up.
Have you been to that splash pad before?
I have. And
on a day like today, like it is a Saturday, it was a nice day.
Yeah.
Is it crowded typically? Or?
Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't, but usually it's not somewhere you go to get shot up at.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Well, Logan, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Good to meet you. Thank you. So you heard there from Logan, just kind of reiterating what we've been telling you. This perimeter has been set up for quite some time, about a mile back from where the crime scene is. Again, we heard that one loudspeaker remark telling the whoever it is to come out. That was the one time we heard it. We have not heard it since. And again, only movement we've seen since I last came to speak with you was the SWAT truck that left came back, and then went into the scene, and that's kind of where it is. So we don't know where exactly the crux of the scene is, but that's what's happening over here on Willowwood and DeQuinder.
Hey, Dave, we appreciate it, man. Look, obviously that young man is shaken up, knowing that he could have been at that splash pad when that unthinkable crime had happened. But is there anyone else who's maybe around, and are you seeing any kind of glimpses of emotion, any tears, anyone comforting each other during this time?
Yeah. Saying he killed himself.
No, I mean, that would probably be something that we would.
Okay. It says here, according to Channel 4, I guess he's dead. It says here, the suspected shooter was cornered by police at a mobile home park in Shelby Township for hours after the shooting. Police said he killed himself during the standoff. He has not been identified, but Butcher said the suspect was known to police. When was this posted? Updated 9:07. Yeah. I guess so. I mean, yeah, says he's dead. Wow.
On their face or anything as they were going by. So I think everybody is just still trying to process exactly what's happening at this particular scene, and maybe not, weighing into the gravity of what transpired just a mile down the road from here. You heard Logan kind of reiterate the fact that, thank goodness he didn't go to that scene today, in his mind, just kind of rationalizing that. You can't imagine what all those people that did go and witnessed that and saw that or heard it. We heard one person kind of describe it as they heard the sound of firecrackers, thinking that that's all it was on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Clearly not the case.
I'll never understand, what crosses somebody's mind to do something like that and then just off themselves. I don't know what is it, like. Is it wanting attention or desperation? I had no idea. I'll never make sense of it. And purposely targeting children.
It's just tremendous. And we know that the feds have established very clear guidelines for how to respond to these kinds of situations. We know that they're probably calling in all or other off-duty officers or personnel who are not currently at an emergency call, trying to establish an incident command structure there. Have you seen, in comparison to other scenes, does it seem to you like this is probably one of the largest scenes that you've kind of encountered in terms of a barricaded situation, even though they're not using that term, a suspect who is inside of a home?
Yeah, this is unique in that there's like layers to it, right? So we're inside one of the perimeters, and there are perimeters set up at the mile roads to the north and south of where we're standing here on DeQuinder. So right on the borders, just to give people a general idea if they're just tuning in, between Rochester and Shelby Township. So I'm standing on what is essentially Rochester area, and then across the street over there is Shelby Township. That's DeQuinder Estates. That's the mobile home park, very large mobile home park. So right here where I'm standing, I'm counting, a dozen or so law enforcement vehicles with their lights on now as the sun is setting down. It's become more and more evident. But there's probably a secondary scene within that. Slaughter. I know there is because, a number of SWAT or armored vehicles pull into the mobile home and then make a right, theoretically going to the secondary scene, and who knows if there's a scene beyond that as well. So yes, very large. I'm sure it was all hands on deck, and I'm sure if you were off duty, you became on duty as soon as you got the call, just given the gravity of the situation of what transpired around 5 o'clock this afternoon. The fact that innocent people seemingly were fired upon by random with no rhyme or reason as to why, and no rhyme or reason as to who this person is. And so once they found this person and tracked him to the scene, yes, you bet if you were anywhere near, you were flying to the scene if you were in law enforcement, trying to help out in any way, shape, or form. And then, yes, once they get here, it becomes a coordinated event, which goes on an enormous scale. I can't even begin to fathom how that is handled, but they've done this before. So this is handled professionally, and hopefully we'll get some idea of what brought it to a resolution tonight.
Right, and of course, because you're waiting for investigators to come give you an update, we are now just going through the process, because you have done this so often, of what law enforcement is likely doing right now, or what they may be in the process of doing, assessing the situation, gathering intelligence, trying to see if there are, any potential hostages. These are all the kinds of things that have been laid out by federal agencies for what even local law enforcement will do. SWAT obviously there until they know that suspected shooter is neutralized. However that occurs, of course, they always want to come to a peaceful resolution, but they will be there on scene until that person is neutralized. Any updates at all? Because we can't see the entire scope. We can only see where Timothy Robertson is pointing his camera. Have you seen a mass exodus of law enforcement, or any entrance of other? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, yes, correct. I've seen them come in. I have not seen many come out. Again, we're seeing a couple more just come onto the scene. That's kind of, they've been trickling in. I have not seen many law enforcement outside of that one SWAT vehicle, which left and then returned to the scene, go. And again, the sheriff is here on scene as well. Veiled all clear has been given. Clearly, they are not standing down in any capacity at this point, so we don't know what prompted that. Obviously, we don't know why this particular suspect may have chosen this location, if they're possibly working with somebody else. Who knows why they chose to barricade themselves in this particular location. So maybe these are all things that have to be ironed out before they go ahead and say everything is fine, everybody can resume normal activities, because that is clearly not the case. Not as we come to you at 9:30 now. They're still trying to clearly find out something else. The sheriff walked in, probably 30 minutes ago. He arrived on scene and has been, out of view, speaking with somebody, trying to gain as much intel as they can. The hope is that the sheriff will then return. This is where perimeter is. There's other media here. So it stands to reason that this is where he'll come to deliver kind of whatever message he has to give as we enter close to the 10 o'clock hour here.
Dave, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And look, as we come back here, just after 9:30, we do want to just give you a recap of Dave spoke to a person who was nearby, saw the lights, stopped by. Yep, no problem, man. A young man by the name of Logan Sherrill, obviously emotionally shaken at the thought of him possibly going to that splash pad before hearing that it was a crime scene. But he said that he had stopped at Willowwood and DeQuinder, where Dave has been for the last hour. He had said that he saw SWAT, he saw helicopters. He got an alert about the splash pad situation on his phone, pulled over by that neighborhood for safety. Scene has gotten crazier since he had gotten there, and obviously since Dave had gotten there as well. And then Dave had asked, does he have any idea where this situation between the suspect and law enforcement has been happening? He had hinted at possibly the back right corner. Of course, that is not confirmed yet. We do know that Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard is on the scene, so hopefully they can provide Dave with an update, and we can kind of get a better idea of the lay of the land there, other than what you're seeing by the perimeter. But DeQuinder Estates, this young man had said that he instead decided to go to the pool instead of the splash pad, and that decision likely has saved him injury and saved his life.
Yeah, I grew up in this area. Rochester Hills is known for being a very safe community there in Oakland County, and
the insanity, man. If they come up with a press conference, I'm sure they're going to do an update. I don't know. I don't know how much longer before another presser. Hey, Linda, how you doing? Yeah, man, it's the time that we're in is just the insanity. This station seems to be behind, though. I don't know why.
The government, through the FBI, has laid out a very clear pathway for how investigators should engage with a suspect in this kind of circumstance, making sure they have a qualified negotiator. One of the reasons why, even though you may have seen earlier Sky Fox up, one of the reasons we keep our distance is because we don't want uniformed personnel, SWAT, those who may be in plain clothes, any equipment, etc., to be visible to the suspect, visible to the person who's inside. So we've been very, very careful about that. They have established, obviously, a full perimeter that is further away.
So I don't know. This person I don't know who this person is. This person is saying that the splash pad. The gunman has not been detained. Reports are going around that he offed himself, but no official reports. Well, I don't know. That article, click 4, local 4 says that he's deceased. Let me go back. Yeah, they updated their article. They updated it again at 9:29. Oh, wait. I think they updated the article and they removed that he killed himself. It's the same exact article. But I think they removed it. Click 4 local news. 9 people were injured in the shooting. Random incident. The shootings happened Saturday. Brooklyn's Plaza splash pad. Oakland County Michael Butcher said they are working to figure out how many people were shot, suggesting it could be 9 or 10 victims. He said one of the victims was 8 victims with various injuries. Multiple local hospitals have victims being treated. Butcher said the shooter appears to have fired 28 shots and reloaded multiple times. Police have recovered a handgun. Okay. Oakland County Sheriff issued an emergency alert to avoid the area. They updated the article and removed where they said he was deceased. That he offed himself. That's weird. That is weird.
The perimeter. Yep. And likely what he was hearing from negotiators or whoever was speaking over a microphone or speaking to this suspect inside of this home. We don't know exactly what they said necessarily, right? He's hearing from a distance. So we're not seeing exactly what investigators are doing up close. I think I also want to take a broader perspective. You know, when we had that press conference from Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard, he was flanked by the mayor of Rochester Hills. Yeah. He was flanked by Congressman John James, because this community, after this kind of heinous act, needs to heal. All these 9 or 10 victims are going to have to heal in the hospital. You know, they're obviously our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers, our focus should be on them. But the psychological terror that a community experiences when their veil of safety is lifted. It's impossible to quantify that. It's impossible to qualify it.
Yeah, you know, you talk about the healing from the physical injuries is one thing.
Right.
But this is something that's going to stick with people, especially a lot of the youngest victim, who we were told is a child. This is going to stick with them likely for the rest of their life.
8 years old.
Yeah, and so this is something that they're going to have to deal with. You go to therapy. You're going to have, and it doesn't just affect the immediate shooting victims, but this also affects the family and the community as well, because you're going to have to deal with talking with people about being safe and you know, allowing them to try to open up their lives again and be vulnerable, because for people who've been in these kind of situations, you kind of build up that wall, and you hate to see that. It's something that is so innocent as visiting a splash pad, but hopefully, you know, Rochester Hills or Corwell will have something that is in place that will be able to help them, you know, not just heal physically, but heal emotionally as well.
Well, also there's been a consistent debate amongst lawmakers about how to handle gun violence and what to do with regards to stopping this kind of thing, or if you even can. Is it possible to prevent this kind of tragedy from happening, and getting to the heart of what kind of gun legislation can be effective, while also maintaining the right that citizens have to bear arms that our Second Amendment provides us. On May 3rd, this is a really interesting point, we saw actually a sharp decline in mass shooting events in the United States. it was 91 fewer deaths and 222 fewer injuries that were seen at the same time on May 3rd in 2000.
And I think I found the old, let's see, I have the article still open from before them updating it. So they had said here that the suspect was cornered by police. Police said he killed himself during a standoff. And then if you refresh it, it's gone. So they removed it. What in the heck is going on?
At a splash pad right on Auburn, just east of John R. Now, folks were told to stay away from that area. Obviously, now we know that people who had been sheltering in place at nearby parks, they were allowed to go home. So that obviously is something positive. But still, as far as we know, this other scene where the suspect is contained, it appears at this point that that is still ongoing. The sheriff out there himself, and we don't know what the status is in relationship to that shooter or suspected shooter who is inside of a home.
Yeah, Dave has been out there for the better part of an hour, and he has been talking to people. He has been basically our eyes. And even though he's in a perimeter, and he was saying being kept a little further back than he would at a scene like this, he was able to hear what sounded like someone on SWAT on the speaker trying to talk to the suspect. And as you were saying earlier, Sheriff Michael Bouchard has worded this very delicately. Right. He hasn't said that this is a barricaded situation, but he did say that the suspect is there. What we do not know about the suspect situation is where exactly he is in relation to where Dave is in the perimeter, because we know that this neighborhood, the Quinder Estates, it stretches at least a mile, right, possibly more. There was a neighbor or a neighbor or whoever was in the area that Dave did speak to and was saying that it sounds like the action may be going on in one of the back ends of this neighborhood, but of course we have to wait on Mike Bouchard to officially confirm that. Yeah.
One thing we should also say is that part of the way that this came to the attention of law enforcement, of course, 911 calls were coming in almost immediately after the shooting, but there was a sergeant listening to basically some new technology that the Oakland County Sheriff's Office has said, and we've said it a number of times. They have a tremendous amount of experience. Mike Bouchard is very involved in national organizations that deal with the latest developments on policing. So they were able to get there in 2 minutes before the first call even came in. And we also know that they were able to recover a weapon very, very quickly here.
It was a 9mm, right? 9mm Glock.
That's right. A 9mm Glock semi-automatic handgun. And the number of bullets possibly fired here, it's gut-wrenching. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to even say. Yeah. 28 times this person.
More than 24 times that this person is shot. He reloaded multiple times, but police did recover some of those handguns. And as you saw over when Sky Fox was over the immediate scene, there were a number of not shell casings, but evidence markers on the ground. When you see those evidence markers, and we've seen them, we've been to crime scenes before, but most times those are shell casings that are being recovered by forensics. We mentioned the witness that Dave spoke to earlier. We want to get to him right now.
I was. Luckily, God told me to just go to the pool. Just go to the pool, and you don't need to go to no splash pad and get shot up.
Have you been to that splash pad before?
I have, and
on a day like today, like it is a Saturday, it's a nice day. Yeah. Is it crowded typically, or?
Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Right. But usually, it's not somewhere you go to get shot up at. No.
Quick recap. I know that we were going to pull up some more information, but quick recap. So what Dave was talking to that witness about was he was going to go to the splash pad today. He got the alert on his phone after the shooting, and instead of going to the splash pad, he did go to the pool. So he was just thankful that he did not have to get caught in that situation. But obviously, as you see that as he's speaking with Dave, he is very shaken up at the idea of what could have happened.
Well, there are probably a lot of people there in that community who are thinking the same.
On a day like today, especially.
Especially. It's warm out. It's beautiful out. This is the middle of the day. This is an incredibly safe community. Or so we obviously believe, and it has historically been. Many people likely were on their way there and are getting the alerts on their phones or have gotten the alerts on their phones and thinking, thank God. Thank God I didn't go to this park today.
Yeah, their lives have been forever changed.
And you never want to live in that kind of situation. And obviously there are a number of people, especially young people, who are going to have to recover not just physically from this, but emotionally, mentally. It might be a lifelong process. We have seen reaction from a number of lawmakers. We obviously saw Congressman John James out there.
He was right there by Mike Bouchard.
The mayor of Rochester Hills. We also got a statement from Governor Gretchen Whitmer that we'd like to share with you now. Governor Whitmer reacting on X saying, quote, "I am heartbroken to learn about the shooting in Rochester Hills. We are monitoring the situation as updates continue to come in and are in touch with local officials." Sadly, she's been here before.
Right. Twice. I mean, if you count Michigan State back in 2023.
Fox 2 Detroit. There's no other news feeds that I see. And so I'm assuming, I guess it's still a standoff. I guess. Who knows how long it could take. Sometimes it takes hours. There was a recent one that we covered. We caught the end of it. Lord. I know it's completely unrelated, but I've been watching this show on Netflix called Your Honor. The guy from Breaking Bad. It's pretty good. Check it out. On season 2. I'm trying to see. I honestly have not seen any update.
Drove there themselves. We also do have a statement from Corwell. We want to get to that and bring that up for you real quick. It says, quote, "Our hearts are with those who were impacted."
We heard this stuff already too. Splash pad shooting. Nothing about the identity that I've seen. Multiple people shot. Oh, it's been really spicy in the chat lately. I mean, this is one of those kind of topics, I guess, kind of happens. Oh, look, let's see.
Suffering from gunshot wounds, varying types of injuries is what the Oakland County Sheriff said during his press conference. This person just got out of a vehicle and started shooting at a splash pad in Rochester Hills, a place where families were gathered, where young people were. A victim, we understand, as young as 8 years old, was shot. Now, we don't know the types of injuries, all of the types of injuries involved here. We don't know the severity of those injuries. Certainly our thoughts and prayers are with all of the victims and their families, as many of them. Another element that we have to mention are family members who maybe are hearing through us, through notifications, oh my gosh, my dad had planned to be at that splash pad with some friends, or was taking, my children there. I don't know what the status of things are. I can't reach them.
It's Father's Day weekend. This is a time that a lot of people were probably going to head out there. It was a nice warm spring evening. And this is an opportunity, as you were saying, Hillary, this is an opportunity that if you're watching this and you're not too sure about your family member, check in on them. Give them a call. Send them a text. Just check in on them, check in on their well-being. And if you know that they're a person that visits this splash pad out there,
somebody on Twitter, Lisa, thanks for sending me this. It's so hard, though, to sometimes when not you in particular, but I'm not sure where this came from. Maybe Facebook. But they're saying the shooting. Somebody is saying the suspect in the shooting is dead, supposedly. But again, I don't know. It says, I can confirm the suspect who randomly opened fire on the splash pad in Rochester Hills has killed themselves in a house in Shelby Township just blocks away. MDCR, Metro Detroit Crown Report, learned that at least 32 bullets were fired randomly from 20 feet away. Now, the number that I kept hearing was 20-something. This is the first time I hear 30-something. But just 20 feet away from kids and parents, and there are at least 10 victims being treated. Okay.
Police have, cornered a suspect in a home in that neighborhood, but they're trying to hopefully negotiate a peaceful end. We saw, 2 SWAT vehicles. As Dave was speaking to us, maybe about 20, 30 minutes ago, one of the SWAT vehicles had left, and that's the one Dave had said that he had first noticed when he got there, that had driven into the neighborhood. And then I know that as you were talking with Dave and I had hopped in here, there was a much larger SWAT truck that took a turn into the neighborhood. Likely that may be connected to when Dave was hearing someone over a loudspeaker trying to talk with a suspect.
Possibly coax them out,
yes.
but unclear because he is a distance from that inner scene. And you can just think of this sort of as concentric circles, because there's the outer perimeter and then the perimeter inside, close to where this home is. Mm-hmm. The sheriff, we should note, was very clear not to say barricaded gunman situation, which is typically how we would describe this. It could be because the suspect, the person they believe is a suspect, dropped a handgun, apparently. Law enforcement did recover a 9mm Glock semi-automatic handgun. We know that the sheriff's office also was trying to secure a search warrant to do some more evidence collecting, which of course is related to this. We just don't know in what way and where that searching was conducted and how it relates to obviously their interest in getting a peaceful resolution to this at this time. Now,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Something that we can always say too, because we're still waiting on the Oakland County Sheriff to brief us, to give us an update. We can tell you what the steps are, because we've had so many of these situations, so many of these things that are similar to a barricaded gunman situation. Someone inside of a home they're trying to coax out, where they don't know if there's a person inside with the suspect. They don't know how many weapons are inside with the suspect. They're always going to be using a qualified negotiator. So likely who we heard over the loud phone was a negotiator who has done this before, who has talked with suspects before. Now, they're also likely not going to try to take any too aggressive actions right at the outset. I mean, that can change, but that's usually the first line of defense. I don't want to be too aggressive with this person. And the most important thing, and which is why we in the media have learned over time to be very careful with displaying the tactical movements and positioning of law enforcement. They want to make sure all uniformed personnel, all ranks, police vehicles, equipment, weapons, etc., should be kept out of the view of the barricaded person or the person who is inside. Mm-hmm. And that is very, very important. And of course, you can see they've established a perimeter, and we are being kept just on the edge of that at the DeQuinder Estates. This is right on the border, by the way, between Rochester and Shelby Township, about a mile from the original scene, as I believe what Dave told us.
And as you were saying earlier, for these first responders, this is also, they have families that they want to return home to too. Of course. And so that is why they're taking all this added precaution, extra caution. Dave did say that compared to scenes that he has been at before, there is a sense of urgency. And I know you see officers in the middle of the street closer to the entrance of DeQuinder Estates, but he said there's not that heightened sense of urgency. Of course, in a situation like this, police want to get this suspected gunman in custody as soon as possible before this person can try to injure someone else. Hillary, you'd mentioned that Sheriff Bouchard did not call this a barricade situation. I did have a moment as you were explaining everything. Colorado State, they have Carlos State Police. They have what a barricaded situation is, and I'll read that definition for you. It is an incident where a person maintains a position of cover or concealment and ignores or resists law enforcement personnel, and it is reasonable to believe that the suspect is armed with a dangerous or deadly weapon. So those last few words are key, because as you were saying and as we have heard, Sheriff Bouchard has been very delicate in not addressing this as a barricaded situation. But again, in a barricaded situation, it is believed that the subject is armed with a dangerous or deadly weapon. We do know that police have recovered a weapon, the 9mm Glock semi-automatic handgun. But what we do not know is, in the home where this suspect is there another weapon? And if so, where would it be in the house? And I think as you're seeing
that looks like
this,
a kid to me, right? Isn't that a kid? So all these people got their kids walking
seems
around.
like there's a couple people that are walking out
shooter?
of the entrance of the Quinder Estates.
Could be a really short person.
They look like civilians. It's difficult to tell from this vantage point, but it does appear that those appear to be civilians. And of course, there are law enforcement we can see on the back. They're identified, several of them. It looks like about 5, and obviously the flashing lights there with the multiple Oakland County Sheriff's Office vehicles. It looks like there's an EMS just to the right of the screen behind. Now, inside the secondary perimeter, if you will, beyond where we have Dave Station and Timothy Robertson, they're going to be looking at everything. They're going to be looking at possible stairwells, if this is 1 level or 2. They're going to be looking at any skylights, the possibility for the suspect to escape that way. They're going to be looking at any windows, any points of egress or ingress into the home. Sometimes there are cellar exits that actually open out to the outside. All of these are things that law enforcement will be paying attention to around where this suspect is inside. And I think it is fair, as you read that definition, to describe this as a barricaded situation. I think probably the reason that the sheriff was very careful not to go to that level is we just don't know what the weapon situation is inside.
Yeah, at the time that he was speaking, maybe he wasn't 100% sure. They needed more intel. And so hopefully Sheriff Bouchard at some point this evening can address the media again and answer some more questions and give us an update, because these kind of situations, Hillary, as you know, they can last for hours. Like this could last well past midnight.
And we'll be with you through it all. We're also seeing, as we mentioned earlier, Congressman John James was out there flanking Sheriff Mike Bouchard along with the Rochester Hills mayor. Now we're seeing State Senator Michael Weber, who is a Rochester Hills resident, also issue a statement. He says, "I was heartbroken to learn of the horrific shooting incident that shocked our community today. I am praying for the victims and their families. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to our first responders, including the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, the Rochester Police Department, and nearby paramedics who responded quickly. The greater Rochester area will remain a strong community, and we will support each other during this tragic time."
As you were saying that, we did see a police van pull up and kind of situate itself near the entrance, and it is backing up now. Where it will go may give us an indication of where this scene or that interior perimeter is. However, it is going to be very hard to see where that driver goes, where that van goes in this kind of situation, especially as we are in nightfall, as we approach 10 o'clock. And this has been a developing situation. We see a door open. This has been a developing situation from start until now, for about 5 hours, from the shooting at the splash pad to where we are now.
And something the incident commander also will be working on, again, just based on the fact that sadly we've had to deal with this kind of situation all across America and here in Michigan a number of times. They are going to be now possibly even contacting additional what they call contact teams that could be deployed. So at any point also, federal agents could already be there, maybe being deployed. We do have FBI agents who are here in Detroit. They have a command post here. And part of this is also managing the public, because you don't want any kind of collateral damage. Any people who are there. It looks like we have Dave Spencer, who may have just gotten some additional information about what's going on. And we can see Dave turning around and looking behind him. Dave, what update do you have for us?
Just some observations that I've made since I've been here, just to kind of help let people know what's going on at this very moment. I think you guys had referenced the armored vehicle that just kind of moved into a position here. We watched that one had been on the scene for quite some time, and then we watched it kind of reverse into the position now, just to kind of give people an understanding of where we are. We're right at the entrance to the DeQuinder Estates. That's where all this effort is being focused. That's where this perimeter has been set up, keeping the public at bay to let the law enforcement do their jobs here. And we watched that vehicle kind of get into position, and then see some people kind of hanging around the rear of that vehicle. No indication that they're going to move in any further from where they are now. And again, as you guys have been pointing out, we're not quite sure how deep into the mobile home park the scene actually is, where they have this alleged suspect kind of kept, and are waiting for additional information on the status of if they are still negotiating with him, if they have any updates on his current condition, if he's in custody. All of those are still unknown at this time. The sheriff has been on scene here. The sheriff, Mike Bouchard, arrived on scene probably about an hour ago, got out of his vehicle. He parked right next to where we are standing right here, walked across the street into the mobile home park, and has not been seen since that time. We don't know what, I'm sure he's very hands-on in the negotiation factors, but to what degree, it's unknown until he comes back and kind of gives us an update. But yeah, it's been pretty static up until that point where that armored vehicle just kind of moved into position. We've seen some other kind of vehicles shift around, but nobody has really, there's not been a strong police presence influx, and there hasn't been any that have been leaving the scene either. Just kind of pretty static to that point, other than what we've seen. Again, this has been the scene for quite some time, a few hours now. I arrived here at 8 o'clock, and I know that some of the bystanders, we were one of the first media outlets here, some of the bystanders had been here close to an hour afterwards. Most of them living quite nearby, saw all the commotion going on right here on Willowwood off DeQuinder. It's just south of Hamlin, on the border of Rochester and Shelby Township, and just out of curiosity wanted to know what was going on. They had obviously, most of them had heard about what took place just a mile down the road at the splash pad, where that gunman allegedly opened fire and injuring, or to some degree wounding, 9 to 10 people to various degrees. So just kind of a recap. This perimeter has been set up. The actual mobile home estate is very large in scope, dozens of units. We watched a few armored vehicles kind of pull in, turn to the right once they entered the neighborhood, and then a large crop of trees right there blocking any sort of further developments, any further movements from that point on, and that's the way it's kind of stayed up until the point where roughly an hour ago we heard one call over the loudspeaker. I couldn't quite make it out now. A person did tell me that we interviewed that they were telling somebody to come out. I cannot confirm that was indeed the case. I heard them say something, and it stands to reason that that's likely what they were saying, as you watch a vehicle kind of leave the scene, and as we wait for further information to come out as to the status of any sort of negotiations, any sort of custody, or what's going on with this person that is somewhere likely in those DeQuinder Estates mobile home park. Back to you guys.
If we could ask you, Dave, because this is often what will happen, they'll literally send one member of law enforcement or sometimes a team to knock on the doors of nearby individuals to tell them to shelter in their homes. Do you know if they have done that in this area?
I did get one report just from again, we're not allowed to enter there, but somebody who has a relative that lives within that perimeter there that said that their neighbor, that's what happened to their neighbor, that they were told that they needed to leave. That this was few hours ago at this point, and since that time we have noticed a number of people. Now they were coming from a different direction from where the SWAT vehicles came, but we've noticed some cars and vehicles leaving the scene. You know, presumably people that live over there in the DeQuinder estates. They were allowed to leave. We haven't seen anyone, just citizens being able to walk across the street and go to their resident. I don't know if anybody is still trying to do that at this point, but that has not been the case. We haven't even seen much of an effort of anyone to get inside there. I think they understand the situation. Nobody is looking to jeopardize anything, and so that's currently where we stand in terms of if everyone was asked to evacuate. I don't know the extent of which, just that one report from anecdotally from a person that's just here standing with me on the perimeter.
Hey Dave, I know you spoke to a witness earlier. We have seen people since then kind of walking near the entrance. I know that before we came to you moments ago, we did see two people kind of walk out of the entrance and then walk back in. You described this scene earlier as a sense of urgency, but maybe not a heightened sense of urgency. Has the mood changed since we last checked in with you?
No, minus the positioning of that armored vehicle that's right here at the entrance. That's the only thing that's really changed. In terms of the mannerisms of the law enforcement officers, not really. I haven't seen anyone kind of running towards any direction. They're walking with a purpose. Everybody here knows what's at stake, and they know the seriousness of this. So nobody's taking this any kind of lightly. But yes, they're not in a defensive position by any stretch of the imagination here. At least where I'm standing. Again, it's hard for me to tell from this vantage point, even as night has fallen and I can kind of look over and see if there's any other police lights deep within the subdivision there. I can't tell, so I don't know what it's like closer to the scene, but at this point, from this perimeter, no, there's urgency, but not a heightened sense of that.
And you haven't seen DTE or Consumers Energy over there maybe to try to cut the power at all?
No, I have not seen any of that. As we speak now, another police vehicle is entering the scene here. But no, there's been no utility crews or anything to that effect. It's been all law enforcement. That's been the only one that's the only vehicles that are allowed to kind of breach the perimeter at this point. So, here we go. We see one of these vehicles that I mentioned earlier. Theoretically, just a person that lives within there being allowed to leave. So that is allowed to happen. Again, nobody's being allowed entry. But yes, the power is still on, presumably. I could see some lights just off into the distance that you would say that, reason to believe the power is still on at least.
And I understand this may not be a question that you can answer, but obviously law enforcement stages us in certain areas, usually for safety, sometimes just to keep us out of the way. Did they tell you when they put you there outside of the DeQuinder Estates how far you are from the actual scene? Any kind of general concept of how close you may be or how deep inside the home is that's being targeted?
No, unfortunately, no, and that may just be because the people that are setting up the perimeter might not know. I mean, honestly, they have a job to do. They're concentrating on their job, letting the other law enforcement agents concentrate on theirs. Now, that being said, maybe an aerial view. I know we have Skyfox went to refuel and is now back up in the air. That might give us a better sense of where it is. I don't have a monitor out here, so I can't see where it's positioned right now. But that possibly could give us a little bit more detail. But from where I'm standing, it's nearly impossible for me to tell.
Yeah, and we understand that we're asking you, to answer questions that I know you haven't had a chance to interface with law enforcement. Obviously, Mike Bouchard is there working the scene. He is a seasoned investigator himself, although they will be using, of course, trained negotiators who can deal with the suspect. Any update maybe we might hear from the sheriff or someone from the sheriff's office?
No, they haven't given us. As soon as he arrived, he paid no notice to us, as you wouldn't think he would, and went directly into the scene and to kind of gather whatever intel he could. And that's the last we saw of him. It's hard to tell now that night has fallen outside of these flashing lights anything really that's going on beyond this perimeter. So it's anyone's guess when that sheriff or Sheriff Mike Bouchard will come back and hopefully provide us an update relatively soon.
Dave, we do appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
I see him now, actually.
Okay.
I think I see him now. So hopefully we'll get that update relatively soon. We'll see where he goes. It looks like he's getting back into his vehicle. Let's see if we could get him.
Yeah.
So as you're watching this, Dave Spencer is at the DeQuinder Station.
Office.
Trying to catch up with Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard.
Yeah, he is approaching Oakland County
11
Sheriff
at the
Bouchard.
office, he said, I think.
Right
Thank you very much, Sheriff. He did confirm, I believe, I think I heard him say that the suspect is... Now, I don't want to say it because I didn't hear for certain, but he might have an update for us. He said at 11 o'clock at the sheriff's office.
Muted.
Is when you're expecting that you'll get an update on exactly what happened here.
Correct.
Okay.
That's when he just left the scene and is theoretically going to give us an update in about a little less than an hour from now as to what he has learned here. This still remains unchanged outside of the fact that the sheriff's no longer here. So yeah, hopefully we'll get that update soon.
I'm going to let you go so you can kind of maybe touch base with maybe public information officers who might be able to confirm some of what I believe I also may have heard kind of in the distance there, which we don't want to say anything that's not confirmed at this stage. But if we could just ask, we saw what looked like some civilians leaving. Now,
so to me, it almost sounded like the reporters are implying that they heard that guy
federal
was
agents could already be
leave the scene, but he just left the scene in an hour. Changed.
Public in there. We saw.
I don't know why does it have to be a secret though?
Two vehicles leave it there, but now
civilians coming. It looked to be kind of in the distance.
We'll get that update soon.
We'll wait until 11 o'clock. Oakland County Sheriff's Office, where they will have a news conference.
And I can't confirm reasonable, but live here, but not on leaving.
They heard with
hopefully from now. I didn't hear.
He is approaching Oakland County
11
Sheriff
at the
Bouchard.
office, he said, I think. Thank you
now.
very much, Sheriff. That the suspect is. I think.
Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard.
He is approaching Oakland County
11
Sheriff
at the
Bouchard.
office, he said, I think. Thank you
now.
very much, Sheriff. That the suspect is. Now, I don't want to say it because I didn't. Into his vehicle. Actually, I think I see him now. So hopefully we'll get that update relatively soon. We'll see where he goes. It looks like he's getting back into his vehicle. Let's see if we can get him.
Yeah.
So as you're watching this, Dave Spencer is at the
11
DeQuinder
at the
Station.
office.
Trying to catch up with Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard.
He is approaching Oakland County
11
Sheriff
at the
Bouchard.
office, he said, I think. Thank you
now.
very much, Sheriff. That the suspect is. Now, I don't want to say it because I didn't hear for certain, but he might have an update for us. He said at 11 o'clock.
People home. They weren't even sure at that point if there was another person or people inside of the home with this particular suspect accused, again, of possibly injuring 9 or 10 people, many of them suffering gunshot wounds. The sheriff, again, saying that there were various injuries, many of those people being treated at local hospitals as we speak, at least 4 local hospitals.
Look, I want to give people another recap, and we have tried to do this pretty much twice an hour as we approach 10:15 now. A call came in 11 minutes after 5 o'clock, and this is the shooting that happened over at the Rochester Hill splash pad earlier today. So the call came in around 5 o'clock. Sheriff's office or investigators used some new technology to help them out and try to get to the scene within minutes. They recovered a 9mm handgun, and they also recovered 3 empty magazines. Now, it is, the investigators have said that the suspect appears to have fired 28 times in a crowd of people, and we know that there are at least 9, possibly 10 victims here, and one of them is as young as 8 years old.
As young as 8 years old.
So imagine this is a nice, warm weekend. People will go to the splash pad. This is Father's Day weekend. and they're having to deal with a tragedy like this. The victims have experienced all kinds of injuries. So varying injuries, we haven't got an idea of what those injuries are or what to what extent. We do know that a team at Corewell Health is helping out.
We know that.
One of the updates that was sent to me by Wilson, supposedly one of the victims was treated and released from a local hospital. The remainder remain hospitalized, the youngest being an 8-year-old.
To any of the victims who were at that splash pad, and then it trickled down to that suspect being contained in a home at DeQuinder Estates, where you saw Dave Spencer, and now we're expecting an update in the next 45 minutes from Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard. Camila Miri has been at the splash pad scene, so she was updating us when this initial shooting happened, and then Dave has been with us on the back end as they have been talking about trying to de-escalate this contained situation.
Yeah, and the other thing we can say too is that the phrase that the Oakland County Sheriff used was that this was incredibly random, very random. So as of now, it doesn't look like there's any relationship between the shooter and the victims. It's very difficult at this point to necessarily pin down exactly what kind of injuries everybody has. But of course, multiple people are suffering from gunshot wounds, and there are various injuries, as we said. Now, we know also regarding that contained suspect inside of a home, the Oakland County Sheriff not only gave the update that he's going to be giving some kind of press conference to us at 11 o'clock at the sheriff's office, but he also left the scene, according to Dave, who was there at the DeQuinder Estates, where we believe that suspect had been contained within a home. Now, we also want to mention that if you were sheltering in place, many people have known for a long time, but in case they didn't get the message, we don't want to assume. If you were sheltering in place near the park, which was on Auburn Road, east of John R., you are able to leave. We never want to assume that someone who may have been without their phone, or maybe the power went out on their phone or whatever, they're just learning what's going on here. If you were sheltering in place near Auburn Road, east of John R., it is safe for you to leave, but please do avoid that area. That is where the splash pad is located. This is where, still at this hour, I'm certain law enforcement are still collecting evidence, which is such an important
and it will
critical
likely
piece of
be a
this.
crime scene, not just at the end of the day today, but tomorrow and in the days to come for this week. That scene, that splash pad, will likely remain a crime scene, just as the scene over at DeQuinder Estates, wherever they are in that perimeter, will be a part of this crime scene as well.
And we saw SWAT on scene. We saw armored vehicles, of course, on scene. And the sheriff didn't give us very much detail about the search warrant that he was trying to secure. But I suspect because that original press conference happened around 7:40 p.m. and we're now approaching 10:20 at night, very likely that search warrant was acquired. That may have provided additional evidence, information that allowed them to deal with this suspect. Of course, we are hoping that there was a peaceful resolution here, but unclear what happened in that regard. Some of the process for this, by the way, we know is established, sadly well established, because we have had so many mass shootings in this country. So there is a protocol.
All right, so I set up a new stream for 11 because there's just really no been updates really coming out. And I hope that 11, maybe they'll be able to tell us something more, or at least confirm if the guy's alive or dead, at least. So I'll be back in a little bit. I don't want to, I was Explosion, Kansas. I remember one time I covered an explosion like that, and I think it was Kansas as well. It was wild. Was it a house that I covered back then? House explosion, Kansas. Let me see. There's supposed to be like large wildfires to fires in Cali right now, I think. All right, guys. I'll be back in a little while. Okay. We'll come back for the press conference if they have it.